Hey guys, today I am actually doing application Tuesday instead of application Wednesday, just because it's been a crazy week and I haven't been feeling well. Let me turn this up. I haven't been feeling well, so I figured I would go ahead and do it and get it out of the way. So for application tip Tuesday instead of Wednesday, I didn't ask for any suggestions this week. Actually, I was, but then I realized that some things happened in the news that I thought would be some great topics to address for application Wednesday or application Tuesday. So one of those things, two things happened in the news in the world. One was in Florida, one in Miami, and one in California. Of course, the one in Florida is where the employee went into the building and killed his two managers. He killed them. That's workplace violence. The other one is where the wife was killed by her husband. He killed her and another, shot other children, and one of those kids ended up dying. So that is a perfect segue for workplace violence in the workplace. So here's the thing. Your employer is required by law to provide a safe working environment for you, right? It is their responsibility to make sure that you are safe when you come to work, that no hurt, harm, or danger is going to come to you when you come to work. They are required to tell you that and have it in writing somewhere and provide you with training of such. So if you start a job or if you've been at your job and you do not know what your workplace violence process is, make sure you ask for your employee handbook. So in there should be a whole section on workplace violence. We're just going to tell you what it is, how to identify it, how to handle it, how to report it. If you think that someone is just chit-chatting and talking or they just playing, 9 times out of 10, they are not just playing. And depending on where you work at, certain things are considered weapons. Like inside of a hospital, a taser is considered a weapon. So please be mindful that sometimes people are actually trying to tell you what's going on with them or that they have problems, and you're blowing it off as a joke, and then they come back and actually hurt somebody. So if you know that information, it's also your responsibility to let your employer know. So workplace violence is anytime an employee or manager is acting aggressively towards you or other employees or even the customers, or they are saying things that are threatening to you or the company, or especially if they saying things like, oh, if I get fired, I'm going to blow this place up. I wish they would do this to me, then I would do that. Or if two employees are going back and forth and it gets a little heated and you think, oh, it's just boys being boys or girls being girls, and then you don't report it and then somebody gets hurt. Because at the end of the day, somebody's going to get hurt, number one. Number two, how are you going to feel if you knew that information and you didn't do anything about it? So the guy in Miami, he killed his two employers. But think about this. What did the employees know? One, did they know it was in their handbook that if he had shown any symptoms or signs before, did they know to report it? Was there any active training? In my last position, it was my job to do that. So every year, I did the violence workplace and the violence in the workplace training, where I had an hour with the employees and I went over what it was, what it looks like, what you're supposed to do, and how you report it. Because if you don't, then you're not going to know what that is. So make sure that you check your employee handbook to make sure that that section is in there. If that section is not in your handbook, your employer should have another separate sheet or statement that they have that says, hey, we have went over the fact that we are going to provide a safe working environment for you, and you are required to sign off on that. They have to keep that by law. So if your workplace of employment has not done that for you, please notify your HR person and let them know that that is a rule, because what they are required by federal law to provide you a safe working environment, and also to give you the tools that you need to make sure that that's safe. So if you know something like that is going on in your workplace, please report it. Now, on the flip side, the young lady in California whose husband, killed her, and unfortunately, some kids got hurt. And nobody came out great in that situation. Here's the thing. And this is hard because I've been a victim of domestic violence. It's hard when you go to work and I'm already covering up the black eyes, the busted lips, the bruises on my arm, or I'm walking funny because I've been thrown, out the car, down the stairs. I already got a lot going on. But I'm bringing that to work with me. I am endangering all of my friends at work, all the employees at work, and technically that's not fair. Yes, it is. Work was my safe haven. Absolutely. Did I tell anybody at work? No. And mainly because I didn't know how to bring it up, because I didn't know there was a policy, number one. And number two, not one single solitary person asked me how I was doing or what was wrong, because there's only so many ways you can explain a black eye that comes down to your chin. There's only so many ways you can explain why your lip looks funny even though you've tried to cover it up with so much lipstick. There's only so many ways you can explain that. So please pay attention to your coworkers. Is it your business? Yes. I think I said this in October during Domestic Violence Month. It is your responsibility, and you can be held legally responsible if you know someone is being abused and you do not report it and that person gets hurt. Now, you can always report it and not give your name, not give your information, not do anything. Just report, hey, this person is being abused, and give them the facts, and then let the police take care of it. That's fine. But understand, us as victims of domestic violence, once we leave home and we go to work, and work is our safe place, and we don't tell anybody at work what's going on. And our abuser, like my abuser told me, you don't talk to people, you don't do this, you don't do that. Now he's giving me the rules, and my abuser would show up at my job. Ta-da, here he is. So at any time, that could have been a horrible situation for me and for all the people in there. So now, am I not responsible for other lives? So we have to, I know for me, when I was going through, none of that ever crossed my mind at all. I didn't think about any of that. All I thought about, this is the safe place. I don't want anybody to bother me. I just want to be here, and finally it's peace and quiet, However, times are really changing. People are taking it to the next level instantaneously. They're not keeping the abuse at home. They are bringing it into the workplace more and more every day. So definitely make sure that your employer, they should, during your orientation time, or if they did not do it during your orientation time, it should be in your handbook. That safe workplace environment is their responsibility to provide a safe working environment for you. You can look at the stats on OSHA. I Google OSHA, and that is the number one job injury in America is abuse from the outside people coming in and causing damage to other employees that have absolutely nothing to do with the situation. That's the number one job injury. That's insane, right? So make sure that you are up on the information, that you know how to handle yourself should someone come in to your place of employment. What do you do if somebody comes into your place of employment and they're threatening to kill you or somebody else? So they come in as an active shooter. Have you guys have training on that? So these are some of the things you need to think about, I think, because it's happening in the news. It's definitely bringing it, people are starting to think more and more about it, and the seriousness of it, because it's a very serious thing. If you think your coworker is off and you think it's funny because, they're a little off, they're a little special, they're a little crazy, but if they've made threatening comments to the job, to the organization, to other employees, and you do not report it, in some cases, if you know and you don't report it in workplace violence in the workplace, then you can be held responsible just as much as you could be if you know a woman is being abused and you don't report it. So it's it kind of goes intertwined. As a victim, it's hard because we don't want people in our business, but at the same time, we are jeopardizing other people's lives. And we don't see that at the time, but that's truly exactly what it is. And then if your employee, your friends at work are acting crazy, or they out of the pocket, then you need to let them know. Take, for instance, one of my employees, they were arguing over something insane. Well, he kept saying, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to hit you. Well, nobody paid it any attention. 2 or 3 days later, they're back there. She says something to, make him upset again. He's chasing her around the kitchen with pans. And she breaks out a taser. And she'd been threatening him with the taser for a very long time. Nobody knew that. At this point, they're fighting. A grown man, 6'2", like 300 pounds, to a woman, 5'4", about 250 pounds. And they're fighting. And so everybody loses their job at that point. And then the people who we found out later after we did the investigation who knew about it, some of them got terminated because they knew that they were putting the workplace in jeopardy and didn't tell anybody. Or if you're a manager, okay, so here's a really good one. If you're a manager, forget being a manager. Let's say you live in a rough neighborhood, right? And you have the right to conceal, you have a permit for your gun. And you bring your gun to work. However, your gun, your place of employment does not allow weapons. Okay, so two things. You cannot tell anybody you got your weapon on you because you live in a rough neighborhood. When you go home, you need to protect yourself. However, if you tell your fellow co-workers that you have a gun, and then you get in an argument and then people say they feel unsafe because you told them you had a gun, even though you guys had an argument or a disagreement, and you weren't technically threatening anybody. You never showed your gun. You never said anything about it. But now this young lady feels threatened because you're arguing and she knows you have a gun. So now everybody's out of a job. So just be mindful, make smart decisions when it comes to stuff like that. So just make sure that you are up on it. So that's my application tip for today, guys. I probably won't do one tomorrow. That's why I want to do it today. So make sure that you know what your workplace violence plan is. How do you handle it? What do you do? What does it look like? And who do you report it to? And then if you report it and nobody does anything about it, what is your next steps? Your next steps is reporting it yourself to the police. So you need to make sure that. And then think about it. If you are a victim of domestic violence in your home or any emotional, physical, however you want to put it, and then you go to work and you don't tell anybody, but you know it's a real threat that your abuser can show up at work and cause trouble at work, you owe it to everybody that you work around to let the manager know. You ain't got to tell everybody, but you need to let the management team know so that they can make a decision on how they're going to keep you safe when you come to work. And I think that's kind of twofold, because some employers may say, hey, you keeping us all in jeopardy, but they can't fire you because of that. That's discrimination. They can't fire you because of that. But at the same time, you don't want to put other people's lives in jeopardy. So just make sure you understand what that policy is. If the policy is not in your employee handbook, if they do not have and then if the section doesn't say work violence in the workplace program, then it should be under your safety section of your handbook, where it says we're required to keep you safe. This is how we're going to do it. And if you don't feel safe, these are the steps you need to take. They're required by law to give you that information. If it's not in your handbook, your HR person should have did a training class where you signed off on it, that you understood the policy and the procedures and how to handle that. If you did not, I suggest you let your HR person know immediately, because, that is a law that they are required to do that. So make sure you do that. If you are a victim of domestic violence, please let your management team know if you know it's a real possibility that your abuser can show up at work, because you are endangering the lives of other people. So make sure that you are on, that you are on top of that. Yeah, you don't want to let everybody in your business, but at the same time, you don't want to get everybody hurt. So one of the things that I do, one of the speaking topics that I do, is I come to organizations and I talk to them about violence in the workplace, how to keep their employees safe, some of the tips they need to follow, some of the things they need to do, and some of the things to look out for. What are the warning signs? What do you... is it an everyday thing? Oh, were they joking? Was it for real? You always want to take it seriously. I'm telling you, you want to take it seriously, because you don't want something like Miami or something like California happening, and then you're like, wow, I should have really paid it, because hindsight is 20/20. But you really want to make sure that you are covering yourself and your friends at work. So just remember that it is your responsibility to report it. So that's my application tips for today, guys. Just want to keep you safe at work, so you know your rights and your responsibilities. Hey, Alicia. So you know your rights and your responsibilities, because violence in the workplace is very, very real. Trust me, it is very real. And then the face of domestic violence is really not what you think it looks like. I went to work every day, full face of makeup, and talking proper every Sunday, looking with the matching hat and the suit on. So I didn't look like domestic violence, but it was truly happening to me. And thank God, nobody around me other than me was hurt. But what if my abuser had chose to show up at work? So just be mindful that everybody may not know the other side of your abuser. But they don't know. We got to keep people safe at work, Alicia. That's right. That's the main thing. That's why I wanted to do this for my topic for today, because this happened back to back, guys. So you should really be thinking about it. And I'm not saying going to work and look at people sideways like you've been talking crazy. Oh, no. No, what I'm saying is you just need to be careful about what people are saying and what they're doing. So that's all my application tips for today. If you guys have anything else y'all would like to talk about for next week, just let me know. Bye.